What up, guys? Your boy caught this and we're back with another one. Now today we're going over one of my all-time favorite builds that I use for APOC. I've definitely come back to this build multiple times to play with friends, and I've come back to this build just to play solo again because first off, I love this game, but this build is just very, very fun. Now, we aren't using any meta weapons. This isn't a meta build just like the last video I put out. I kind of stray away from the meta because there's so many builds to be had out there, and I don't want to follow what everybody else does. If you want to follow a meta build, then maybe you shouldn't watch this, but this is a very, very fun build. You put out really, really solid damage. You're constantly moving around as a very fast tank, and that's why I've dubbed it the War Machine. You have a little bit of everything going on with this build. We have the close range from the shotgun, the flamethrower, and the hammer, and we also have the long range of the engineer class. We're using the Gauss cannon right now, which I really, really love, and especially if you overdrive it or overpower it, I forget what it's called, but you can turn it into pretty much a one-shot machine. Now, I feel like this build is at its best for group play, but you can definitely make things happen for solo play. As you can see here, I just love the way this thing pairs together with everything that we have in it. I love raging out and having faster movement speed and faster reload speed. I love doing the shotgun kills and switching over to the flamethrower. Overall, this is one of my all-time favorite builds. I love being a tank bruiser, and it just fits that playstyle so well. As you can see, this build does very well with crowd control. The only thing I really have a problem with when I come back to this build and play on APOC is flying enemies. That seems to be the biggest problem, but I just use the Gauss cannon. Let's go ahead and get into this build, guys. Alright guys, and getting into the build, we are a high-tech Sentinel, and that's because we're running Engineer first and Challenger second. You're more than welcome to switch these around, but I would highly suggest running the Engineer first just because of the overclock, and you get 25% more increased damage on all these little bad boys. So it just makes more sense to run this first, but you can run however you want, guys. As far as turrets, I run all three of them. I feel like this one can be potentially dangerous to you because when you set it up and you're running around and have this thing on auto lock, it just shoots out rockets, and those rockets can hit you if you're close to the enemy, and they will bust your ass. So watch out for this one. This one's my favorite, but you can run any of these. And as far as these, they're all really, really nice, but this one is my favorite, and I would suggest running this one with how we have the build set up. But you know, if you're watching this video, you build however you want, do what you want. As far as the amulet, this is what we're running. Now, I really like this one, but I switch it out with Ankh of Power for boss fights, and I actually switched the amulets quite a bit with all these at the top row. So whatever you see here, if you like any of these, just go ahead and run them however you see fit, because this is your build, make it your own. Now, we are running Anastasia's Inspiration, and the reason we're doing that is because we have 1 point into regrowth, and that allows us to get this plus 7% on everything. So the haste from this is really, really nice, as you can see here. I enjoy having that. Second off, we're running the Blackout Ring. I really enjoy this just because of the weapon we're running. You can switch this out, and I do switch this out pretty often, and I'll switch it for this and this. These are the two that I switch it out with the most, so you can do that however you want. Obviously, this is a no-brainer for anything with no weak spots, and just like in the last video, you can most definitely run this if that's what you're feeling. As the last two rings, I feel like they're no-brainer. I feel like most builds are going to have this just because you're going to want some type of damage on here, and these work really good as far as damage. Now, this one doesn't work that well with the weapons that we have set up, but as soon as we pull out the turret from the Engineer class, this works very, very well because we can start to stack the weak spot damage. This one can hit weak spots, but not as easily as, you know, the turrets. Now, moving on to the main weapon that we're using, it is Spore Bloom. I'm not too sure if people are playing with this, but I really have found a solid love for this gun. It's a lot of fun. The Spore Shot's really good just because it slows, and we're running Slayer in it, which increases our next shot by 20%, and we're constantly shooting with this. So after the first shot, we just get rolling. We're constantly doing 20% more damage, and it increases our reload speed, which stacks with this and everything else. Everything's stacked up once we're like buffed up and everything. We're at 92% reload speed, so that's really nice to have. You're just constantly shooting shots down range. Now, I have put the Gas Giant on here just because it kind of makes sense with what we're going for on the build. I think it looks good with a character named War Machine with heavy armor, but you don't want to run this, you don't have to. I think Dying Breath is a good AoE. It does some really solid damage, and we put Shield Breaker on it just for more defense, and you can also use that to drain all the defense or whatever and do 100% more damage. If you're looking for double damage, that's really good. I think it's a good weapon, but it's up to you guys. Right here, secondary, also up to you guys. I really enjoy the Hellfire. I like that it has explosive shot. The explosive shot is really nasty, so be careful with that. I've downed myself quite a bit with this explosive shot. And we're also running Harmonizer, which I feel like works really well because it's just boosting our mod damage by 20%. And whatever our weapon is that's stowed, we're also generating more mod power for that by 25%. So I can constantly quick swap between these and use the little rocket launchers or explosive shots that they have, just because I'm using the other one and getting mod generation for both. As far as armor, no brainer. We're running Letos or Letos, however you want to say that. I'm not running the Leto legs just because I don't like the way that they look. I don't like running a full suit of armor that matches. Maybe it's because I'm a Dark Souls guy that likes fashion souls. I don't know what it's about. But if you want to, here's our overall defense. Now with this on, we're at the max amount of DR. If you do put this on, you are going to overcap that by 3%. So it's 3% you're not going to need, but if you want to, you could definitely take that out of bark skin. That's what you want. And you can see that you're at 73% damage reduction right here. So, you can fully run this, but I wouldn't suggest it unless you really want to be super tank. And you don't really need to because it's tanky enough. I feel like this looks much better. As far as healing, we're still running Dragonheart. I like this. This is still my favorite. I'm probably going to run this on every video from here on out. And then we're running these mythic pieces. I was finally able to get mythic because someone in the comments of the last video kind of helped me figure out how to get it. I was having trouble because I was just literally burning relic dust, but this is what we're running. Overall, the mythic range critical damage probably isn't the best for this build unless you're constantly using your engineer weapons. So that's where that comes into play. And let's go over the traits real quick. Now these traits I feel like work really well for this build. Everything's subject to change. If you want to change any of these, please go ahead and do that. When you're watching this video, you don't need to go by the book of what I'm doing. I want you to watch this video and make this build your own. You want to have fun, just do what you want to do. And just like the last video, I want to show you two different bosses. The first boss always has a giant weak spot. I want to show you what type of damage you can expect from this build overall for boss fights. And another thing to really pay attention to is I'm dodging around with the turret. I feel like having turret in hand makes it a lot easier to dodge, especially if you're a heavier character, because it kind of works like a neutral backstep. You're constantly recovering from it and you don't have to worry about the fat heavy roll from it. So we're able to get around very easy while using it, so don't fear to have it in hand multiple times. And also I really love to kite enemies over and set that down, have it do fat damage while I put damage on or dots or anything I can on it. As you can see, we're really burning down this boss pretty fast. Now other builds I have put together has completely burned this boss down within the first, I want to say 7 to 10 seconds of fighting it. But overall, this is a really fun build and you guys should enjoy it on your playthrough in APOC. Alright guys, that pretty much sums it up. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and comment. It helps this channel out a lot and it helps me out a lot. In the future, I'm going to continue to play this game and make a couple more builds before I move on to something else. Anyways, you guys have a great day and I will see you in the future. Later guys.